The hug that turned fear into courage. A girl's incredible transformation. The billionaire was a man who lived a life that many people could only dream about. He owned tall buildings, luxury cars, and companies that made him more money every single day. His name often appeared in business magazines. His face was familiar at charity events, and people respected him not only for his success, but also for his powerful presence. Whenever he entered a room, others looked at him with admiration, sometimes even with a little fear. He had built his empire with determination, sharp decisions, and the kind of confidence that never wavered. Yet despite all of this, there was one place where his confidence completely disappeared, and that was when it came to his daughter. His daughter was the center of his world. She was the only family he truly had close to him after his wife had passed away a few years earlier. She had bright eyes that often sparkled with innocence, but there was a shadow of fear that never left her. While other children of her age loved to run, play, and sing loudly, she always stayed quiet. She spoke softly, avoided strangers, and found it difficult to make friends. Whenever she was in a room full of people, she would shrink back, clutching her father's hand tightly. As though the world outside frightened her, the father tried everything he could to help her. He enrolled her in the best schools, hired the most patient tutors, even arranged for her to attend children's events and fun activities. But each time, the result was the same. She would stand in a corner, eyes lowered, unwilling to participate. He watched other children laughing, dancing, and performing on stage, while his daughter would hide behind him, terrified to be noticed. It broke his heart, because as much as he wanted to give her courage, he realized this was not something money could buy. There were moments that made him feel especially helpless. Once at a birthday party of a close friend's child, the host had encouraged all the children to join in a small dance performance. Every child ran to the center with excitement. Music filled the hall, and laughter echoed as the children clapped their hands and moved their feet. His daughter was invited too, but she froze on the spot. She shook her head and clung to her father's arm. The father knelt down and whispered that it was okay, that she could try just one step, but her eyes filled with tears and she buried her face in his chest. The other parents smiled politely, but he could feel their silent questions. They wondered why the billionaire's daughter was so different, so withdrawn. That night, as he carried her back home in his arms, he felt a strange emptiness inside. He could protect her from the world, but he could not protect her from her own fears. At home, his mansion was filled with everything a child could desire. Beautiful toys, a private playroom, books, even a small indoor playground. Yet she spent most of her time sitting quietly by the window, watching the world outside. Sometimes she hummed softly to herself, but never loud enough for anyone else to hear. Her father would sit nearby, pretending to read, but secretly he was just watching her. He would imagine how wonderful it would be if one day she could laugh freely, dance without fear, and enjoy the childhood she deserved. But no matter how hard he tried to make it happen, something always held her back. People around him gave advice. Some said she just needed time. Others suggested doctors and therapists. He listened to all of it, tried some of it, but deep down, he knew that his daughter's fear was not something that could be cured like an illness. It was part of who she was at that moment. She needed someone or something to help her see the world differently, but he did not know what that would be. Each night, as he tucked her into bed, she would hold his hand tightly until she fell asleep. He would sit by her side for hours, wishing he could transfer his strength into her small hands, wishing he could pass his confidence into her fragile heart. His love for her was endless, but it also came with guilt. He wondered if his busy life, his constant travels, and his long hours at work had made her this way. Maybe she had grown used to loneliness. Maybe she had never felt the carefree joy that other children found so easily. Sometimes he even blamed himself for not being able to give her the kind of childhood his late wife might have given. The thought pained him deeply, because he had achieved everything in the outside world, yet at home, with his own daughter, he often felt like a failure. Despite these struggles, he never stopped trying. He kept creating small opportunities for her to slowly step out of her shell. He would gently encourage her to greet visitors, to say thank you to the staff, to smile when someone complimented her. Sometimes she would do it, but most times she would retreat into silence. Still, he never gave up. He believed that one day something would help her open her wings. He just didn't know when or how that day would arrive. What kept him going was the moments when she showed her love to him. In her own little ways, she might not talk much to others, but with him, she was different. She would wait by the door when he came home, run to him, and hug him tightly, refusing to let go. When they were alone, she laughed softly, whispered her thoughts, and even made silly jokes. Those were the moments that gave him hope, because he knew that inside her quiet shell was a heart that wanted to connect, that wanted to be free. Still, the fear of the outside world remained. The father often wondered what would happen as she grew older. Would she always live in the shadow of her fear? Would she ever be able to stand in front of people, to share her voice, to live without hiding? These questions kept him awake at night. More than anything, he wished for her happiness. He would trade all his wealth, all his business success, if it meant seeing his daughter dance with joy and confidence. One evening, as he sat alone in his study, he thought about the irony of his life. In business, he was fearless. He made bold moves, faced competitors without hesitation, and carried a reputation of being unshakable. But as a father, he felt small and uncertain. He had faced boardrooms full of powerful men without blinking. But a single tear from his daughter's eyes could break him completely. It was a side of him that no one else knew, a vulnerability he never showed to the world. He reminded himself that love was not about fixing everything, but about standing beside someone no matter what. He could not force his daughter to become someone she was not ready to be. All he could do was love her, protect her, and wait patiently for the day when she would find her own strength in his heart. He carried the silent hope that life would one day give her a gentle push, something or someone that could reach her in a way he could not. He believed in miracles, not the grand kind that changed nations, but the small ones that touched a single soul. And though he did not know it yet, that miracle was already on its way, waiting to meet his daughter in the most unexpected moment of their lives. That evening, the billionaire decided to take his daughter somewhere different, a place far from the usual grandeur and formality of his life. He wanted her to experience a world that was simple, warm, and welcoming, where she could perhaps feel free without the pressure of perfection or expectation. He chose a small, cozy restaurant tucked away in a quiet part of the city. It wasn't a fancy place with chandeliers or gold-plated cutlery, nor was it filled with the chatter of important business clients. Instead, it had a soft, homey feel. The lights were warm and inviting, wooden tables and chairs gave it a comfortable charm, and a few potted plants hung by the windows. The atmosphere was relaxed. The staff greeted customers with genuine smiles rather than practiced politeness. As they entered, the billionaire noticed how his daughter's eyes brightened slightly. She seemed curious, looking around at the simple decorations, the colorful menus, and the small stage in one corner where a live band sometimes played. She clutched her father's hand, but this time, it wasn't out of fear. It was more like seeking reassurance in a place that felt new and different. The father smiled, hoping that the change of environment might encourage her to step out of her shell. Even just a little. They were seated at a quiet corner table, away from the small crowd that had gathered for dinner. The waitress who greeted them was friendly and patient. She noticed immediately that the young girl seemed shy and hesitant. She gave them the menu but didn't rush, standing nearby with a gentle smile that didn't feel forced. The billionaire appreciated the subtle kindness but was mostly focused on observing his daughter. She quietly scanned the menu, occasionally glancing at her father, her tiny hands fidgeting nervously. Soon, the live band began to play. The music was soft at first, gentle and inviting, then gradually built into a lively melody. Few patrons, mostly locals, stood up and began to dance. Their movements were simple but full of joy. The father noticed his daughter stiffen immediately. Her body froze, her eyes wide with fear, and she quickly buried her face against his arm. He could almost hear the anxious thoughts running through her mind. The moment was familiar, Crowds, noise, and the pressure to join in always brought the same reaction. The waitress, noticing the girl's discomfort, quietly approached. She crouched down to the girl's level, her expression calm and gentle. She didn't speak in a commanding tone or try to force her to dance. Instead, she asked simple questions about what the girl liked, about the music, and about her favorite songs. The young girl was hesitant at first, barely nodding in response. But the warmth in the waitress's voice slowly drew her attention. Unlike the world the billionaire lived in, where people often admired him for his money or power, this was a world built on patience, attention, genuine kindness. The billionaire watched, feeling a mixture of curiosity and hope. He had seen therapists, tutors, and teachers try to coax his daughter into social situations, but nothing had worked. Yet here was a stranger, someone completely unknown, simply offering care and understanding, and his daughter seemed to notice. The waitress's presence was not intimidating. It was comforting. She spoke about small things, about how she too had once felt nervous in crowded places, and how she learned little by little to face those fears. She didn't share this to lecture, but to connect, to make the girl feel understood. As the music played on, a few of the patrons tried to invite the girl to join in, waving their hands and smiling encouragingly. She shook her head, stepping back slightly. But the waitress stayed by her side, offering quiet reassurance. She suggested small steps, just tapping her feet to the rhythm, moving her hands slightly, or even just smiling to the music. These were simple things, nothing overwhelming, but they were enough to make the girl look up and pay attention. The father could feel his heart beating faster. He had never seen anyone approach his daughter with such natural empathy. He wanted to help, to do something, but he realized that he had learned a new lesson. Sometimes, stepping back and letting someone else guide the child could make a bigger difference than all the lessons and encouragement he had tried. He remained close, ready to support, but he allowed the waitress to take the lead. Minutes passed, and the young girl slowly relaxed. She still clutched her father's hand, but her body wasn't frozen anymore. She glanced around, watching the dancing patrons and the moving lights of the small restaurant. The waitress encouraged her softly, smiling every time the girl looked up or made the smallest movement. She was patient, never pushing too hard, never showing frustration or impatience. She offered a gentle hand for the girl to hold, letting her feel safe as she explored the music. The father noticed something remarkable. His daughter, who usually withdrew completely from any social interaction, was beginning to respond. She tapped her feet subtly, swayed her hands slightly, and even looked up at the waitress with a small, hesitant smile. The change was small but significant. It was the first time in years that she had engaged with someone outside their family in a meaningful way. The waitress continued to build that trust carefully. She told stories of times she had felt shy or scared, but she never made it about herself. She made it about connecting and helping the girl feel understood. Her words were simple, her tone warm, and her gestures gentle. The young girl began to imitate small movements, first tapping her feet, then letting go of one hand too, lifted in rhythm with the music. Each tiny action was celebrated with a smile, a nod, or a soft word of encouragement. The father realized that the restaurant, the music, and the band were all secondary. What truly mattered was the human connection, the patience, understanding, and genuine kindness of someone who saw his daughter not as a problem to be fixed, but as a person to be supported. He felt a mixture of relief and admiration for the waitress. It was a quiet lesson in humility, showing him that the most powerful moments of influence often come from those who act without expectation, simply offering care. He watched as his daughter began to engage with the world around her, slowly but surely. She still clung to him at times, but her movements were freer, her expressions lighter, and her eyes carried a hint of curiosity that had been absent before. For the first time, he realized that sometimes it wasn't about lessons, rules, or instructions. It was about patience, empathy, and the courage to meet someone where they were emotionally. By the end of the evening, the young girl had even managed to take a few small steps toward dancing, holding the waitress's hand while smiling timidly, The father could hardly believe what he was witnessing. This small restaurant, far removed from the opulence he usually lived in, had become the stage for a quiet miracle in his daughter's life. The warmth of the place, the kindness of the waitress, the soothing music had created a safe space. Where fear could slowly transform into courage, the father felt a deep sense of gratitude. He knew that the evening had not only changed his daughter's mood, but it also taught him a vital lesson about life. Wealth and power could open many doors, but sometimes human kindness and understanding were the keys that truly unlocked hearts. And in that cozy restaurant, surrounded by simple decorations, soft music, and genuine smiles, a shy little girl had taken her first steps toward freedom, guided not by riches or commands, but by someone who simply cared enough to reach out. The evening continued with soft laughter, gentle conversation, and moments of quiet observation. The father remained close, supporting her from behind. But the spotlight had shifted from his wealth and authority to the simple, profound impact of one person noticing and caring. He realized that this night would be remembered not for the grandeur he could have offered, but for the small, meaningful connection that allowed his daughter to begin breaking free from her fear. The waitress stayed patient throughout, never pushing, never rushing, only encouraging at the pace the young girl could handle. She celebrated each small success with a warm smile, a gentle nod, or a soft word of praise. By the time they prepared to leave, the girl's fear had eased, replaced with a quiet sense of accomplishment. She walked a little taller, looked around a little more openly, and even offered a small, shy thank you to the waitress before leaving. The father felt a profound sense of wonder. He had witnessed something extraordinary, not because of money or influence, but because of empathy, patience, and the power of a human connection. For the first time in a long while, he saw his daughter truly experiencing the world beyond her fears, and he understood that the right environment, combined with genuine kindness, could make all the difference in a child's life. That night, a small restaurant became a place where courage quietly began to grow, all because someone had chosen to care in the simplest, most powerful way possible. The following days after that memorable evening brought a subtle yet profound change in the young girl's world. She carried with her a tiny spark of courage, a delicate flicker that had been ignited by a stranger's warmth and understanding. The billionaire father noticed it immediately. She seemed a little lighter in her movements, a little more willing to interact, and a little more confident to explore her surroundings, even if only in small ways. He observed her closely, realizing that the change wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, patient, and gradual, but it was there. Unmistakably present at home, she would no longer shrink away from the idea of small tasks she had previously avoided. If her father suggested playing a simple game or taking a short walk outside, she would hesitate at first, as always, but then slowly nod and follow him, glancing around with a mixture of curiosity and cautious excitement. The father understood that it wasn't about forcing her into social situations anymore. It was about providing opportunities where she could experiment with her courage in safe spaces. He was determined to nurture this fragile spark without overwhelming her, letting her experiences build confidence organically. Meanwhile, the billionaire couldn't stop thinking about the waitress. Her presence that evening had revealed a truth he had overlooked for years. Sometimes, the power of understanding and empathy far outweighed money, influence, or structured therapy. The waitress had a rare gift, the ability to make people feel seen and valued without pressure or expectation. The father felt a growing desire to find her again, not only to express his gratitude, but also because he sensed that she could play a significant role in helping his daughter gradually embrace the world outside their private bubble. He returned to the restaurant multiple times, each visit hoping to catch a glimpse of her. It wasn't easy. The place was small, bustling with locals, and she often moved quickly between tables, attending to customers with a cheerful efficiency. But one afternoon, he finally spotted her arranging flowers on a table near the window. Her posture was relaxed, her movements natural, and her smile genuine, not the polite mask often seen in service staff. He approached quietly, careful not to startle her. She noticed him and blinked in mild surprise, But when he introduced himself, she responded with a warm, friendly tone that immediately put him at ease. The conversation began casually, with the billionaire expressing his appreciation for her kindness the previous evening. He didn't mention money, gifts, or favors, simply wanted her to know the impact she had on his daughter. As he spoke, he noticed her humility and sincerity, qualities that were rare and precious. She listened carefully, nodded gently, and responded with a softness that suggested she understood the importance of her actions far beyond a single evening. She didn't brag or seek recognition. She simply accepted the gratitude with a quiet, heartfelt smile. Soon their conversation shifted to the girl. The waitress asked questions about her interests, fears, and personality, showing genuine curiosity and concern. The billionaire shared what he could her shy nature, her difficulties in social situations, and her gradual steps toward opening up. He watched as the waitress's eyes reflected understanding, not judgment. She offered practical advice in a way that felt natural and considerate, suggesting gentle ways to encourage the girl to interact with the world, all without creating pressure or anxiety. The father realized that her insight was unique. She could see through the layers of fear and hesitation and offer guidance in a way that respected the child's pace and individuality. Together, they began to formulate a plan. It was simple and thoughtful: small outings, brief social interactions, and situations where the girl could feel safe while slowly expanding her comfort zone. The goal was not immediate transformation, but steady growth one experience at a time, each carefully chosen to build courage and self-confidence. The billionaire appreciated the waitress's approach, realizing that his wealth and influence were irrelevant here. What mattered was patience, empathy, and an understanding of human psychology that was far more powerful than any formal training he had ever encountered. The following week, they arranged a small visit to a quiet park. The father and his daughter arrived first, and the waitress joined them shortly afterward. The girl's initial reaction was the same as always: hesitation, a desire to retreat, and uncertainty about what was expected of her. But the waitress greeted her with a calm, warm smile, kneeling slightly to meet her eye level and speaking in a gentle, encouraging tone. She suggested small, manageable activities: throwing a ball, watching the ducks swim, or simply walking along a quiet path. Each task was designed to feel safe, yet provide subtle opportunities to engage with the environment. The girl responded gradually. She began by watching the ducks, her father's hand supporting her from behind, and then, with the waitress's encouragement, she reached out to toss a small piece of bread into the water. She giggled softly when the ducks quacked and swam toward it, the sound of her laughter mingling with the gentle rustling of the trees. The father felt a surge of joy, witnessing such a simple yet profound moment of progress. He realized that these small successes were building a foundation for his daughter's confidence, each experience reinforcing her ability to face the world in manageable steps. Over the following days, similar outings were planned. They visited a quiet cafe. In the afternoon, where the girl could interact with friendly staff in a calm environment, they went to a small library where she was encouraged to browse books on her own or with gentle guidance. The waitress was always present, offering support, praise, and encouragement without ever pushing too hard. She celebrated each small achievement, no matter how minor it seemed, reinforcing the girl's belief in herself. The father observed everything, learning to step back and trust the process, understanding that his role was not to control or lead, but to support and observe with patience. And love. One afternoon, the group decided to attend a local community event. It was a quiet gathering, far removed from the noisy, overwhelming crowds that had previously triggered the girl's fear. There were games, music, and a few friendly children her age. Initially, she clung tightly to her father, hesitant to interact, but the waitress remained patient, offering small gestures of encouragement, suggesting tiny ways to engage. She invited the girl to try a simple game, but emphasized that she could stop at any moment. This assurance of control over her own choices helped the girl feel safe. Slowly, she allowed herself to participate, laughing when she succeeded, and shrugging off minor mistakes with a growing sense of ease. As the weeks passed, the girl's confidence continued to grow. The combination of her father's steady support, the waitress's patience, and the carefully structured experiences allowed her to confront her fears gradually. She began to speak more openly, smile more freely, and even initiate small interactions with others. Each day brought incremental progress, a testament to the power of consistent encouragement and understanding. The billionaire noticed that the girl's joy was no longer fleeting. It was beginning to take root, providing her with a growing sense of security and self-belief. At home, the atmosphere shifted as well. The father, inspired by the waitress's methods, adopted a more gentle, understanding approach in his daily interactions. He replaced expectations with opportunities, commands with suggestions, and pressure with patience. He learned to celebrate even the smallest victories, recognizing that each step forward, no matter how minor, was a triumph in the context of his daughter's journey. The household, once dominated by wealth and formality, became a place of warmth, encouragement, and quiet celebration of progress. One evening, as they gathered in the living room after another successful outing, the girl spontaneously began to hum a tune she had heard at the park. The sound was tentative at first, but it grew stronger as she gained confidence. Her father and the waitress listened, smiling with quiet pride. It was a small, seemingly ordinary moment, but to the father, it symbolized something much larger. The girl's ability to express herself without fear, to engage with the world in a way she had never done before. It was proof that patience, empathy, genuine human connection could achieve what fear and isolation had previously prevented. The waitress continued to visit regularly, guiding the girl through new experiences and challenges. Each day was carefully structured to balance excitement with safety, allowing the child to explore, learn, and grow at her own pace. The father witnessed firsthand the transformative effect of these interactions. He understood that true courage was not about grand gestures or sudden leaps. It was about consistent, small steps supported by empathy, understanding, and love. By now, the girl's confidence had reached a point where she could face social situations with greater ease. She no longer froze in fear at gatherings or shy away from interactions. Instead, she observed, engaged cautiously, and participated with increasing comfort. The father felt a profound sense of gratitude toward the waitress, recognizing that her quiet influence had helped his daughter discover a sense of self-worth and courage that no amount of wealth or authority could provide. Through these experiences, the bond between the father, daughter, and waitress deepened. They became a team, united by a shared goal of helping the girl grow into a confident, joyful individual. The father learned to value patience over control, empathy over instruction, and trust over authority. The girl learned to embrace small challenges, take risks within safe boundaries, and appreciate the power of human connection. And the waitress, through her genuine care and understanding, became an irreplaceable guide, mentor, and friend in the young girl's journey. In time, the young girl's progress began to inspire others. Friends and family noticed her transformation, often expressing surprise and admiration at her newfound confidence. Yet the father and the waitress knew that it was not a miracle, but the result of thoughtful, patient, and consistent support. Each step forward had been earned, nurtured by understanding, and guided by someone who saw the girl not as a problem to fix, but as a person to encourage and support. Through these months, the billionaire father realized that wealth could buy many things, but it could not substitute for kindness, patience, or genuine human connection. He had learned that sometimes the smallest gestures, a smile, a word of encouragement, a gentle hand could have a greater impact than anything money could provide. His daughter's transformation became a living testament to the power of empathy and patience, proving that true change often begins with simple, thoughtful acts of care. The girl herself began to internalize this lesson, learning to approach the world with courage, curiosity, and openness. She discovered that fear could be managed, that social interactions could be enjoyable, and that her voice and presence mattered. Each new experience built upon the last, creating a foundation of confidence and self-assurance that would continue to grow over time. Through the guidance of her father and the compassionate mentorship of the waitress, the young girl's life began to expand in ways previously unimaginable. She laughed more freely, explored new environments with curiosity, and began to form meaningful connections with others. The journey was ongoing, but the progress was undeniable. The quiet triumphs of each day became milestones, shaping her into a confident, resilient, and joyful individual. This period of growth marked a turning point, not only in the girl's life, but also in the father's understanding of what truly mattered. He had learned that influence came not from wealth or power, but from patience, empathy, and the willingness to connect with another person on a human level. And through this journey, the young girl had begun to step into a life filled with possibility, hope, and the quiet joy of newfound courage. The young girl's progress continued steadily, but, as with any journey of growth, there came moments of doubt and hesitation that tested her courage and resilience. Her father noticed these moments clearly, small signs of uncertainty that would sometimes appear in her expressions, in the way she hesitated before responding to questions, or in the way she avoided certain situations. He understood that these were not setbacks, but natural parts of a process. Evidence that her journey toward confidence was still unfolding and that patience would remain essential. He watched her quietly, offering encouragement without pressure, and allowed her space to navigate these moments at her own pace. The waitress, whose presence had already become a comforting constant in the girl's life, recognized these delicate challenges too. She knew that true progress was not a straight path, but a series of small victories interspersed with moments of hesitation. She carefully planned their interactions, creating opportunities that were both safe and gently challenging, allowing the girl to test her limits without overwhelming fear. One day, she suggested visiting a small local fair that promised excitement, lights, and music, but in a controlled and calm way. She emphasized that the girl could take breaks whenever needed and that she could leave at any time. This assurance gave the girl a sense of control that made the idea of attending the fair feel less intimidating. When they arrived at the fair, the sights and sounds initially overwhelmed her. Bright lights flashed, laughter echoed from distant rides, and the scent of popcorn and sweets filled the air. The girl clung briefly to her father, hesitant and unsure, but the waitress remained a calm presence beside her, speaking softly, pointing out gentle, engaging activities that would not frighten her. She suggested starting with something small, watching a puppet show from a distance, allowing the girl to observe without feeling pressure to participate. The girl nodded slowly, and together they found a spot near the stage. The puppets danced and sang, their movements exaggerated and funny. The girl's eyes widened, a soft smile appearing as she laughed quietly at a puppet's silly antics. Encouraged by this small success, the waitress proposed moving a little closer. They took another step forward, allowing the girl to feel more immersed in the event without pushing her beyond comfort. Each step was deliberate, reinforcing her confidence and showing her that the world could be engaging and enjoyable rather than frightening. Her father observed silently, proud of the resilience she was demonstrating. He realized that growth was not about rushing toward grand achievements, but about celebrating each incremental step. Over the following days, the trio continued to explore new experiences, carefully curated to challenge the girl while keeping her safe. They visited a small art gallery where she could look at paintings and sculptures in her own time. The waitress encouraged her to ask questions and express her thoughts about the art, fostering curiosity and self-expression. The girl began to respond, first quietly, then with more confidence as she realized her opinions mattered. The father watched in amazement, seeing how these small exercises were shaping her personality and strengthening her self-esteem. One afternoon, the waitress introduced the idea of a mini talent show for children at a nearby community center. Participation was optional, and the event was designed to be low pressure, focusing on fun rather than performance. The girl hesitated, unsure whether she could take part. But the waitress gently suggested that she could start by simply observing, then perhaps join in a small way if she felt comfortable. The idea of having control over her choices resonated with her, and she agreed to attend. At the event, the girl first watched quietly from the edge of the room. She observed children singing, dancing, and performing small skits. Slowly, she felt a sense of curiosity and excitement growing inside her. The waitress noticed her interest and whispered encouragement, reminding her that she could participate in whatever way felt right. Tentatively, the girl decided to step forward during a group song, clapping and singing along quietly. The moment was small, but it marked a significant milestone. She was engaging with others in a social setting, expressing herself without fear, and discovering the joy of shared experiences. Her father and the waitress celebrated this progress subtly, reinforcing her achievement without making her feel pressured or self-conscious. They understood that the key to lasting confidence was consistency, patience, and reinforcement of positive experiences. The girl's self-esteem grew gradually, each successful interaction providing a foundation for the next. She began to anticipate these outings with excitement rather than dread, eager to explore, observe, and participate at her own pace. Back at home, the father noticed changes in her daily behavior. She began initiating conversations, asking questions, and expressing preferences that she had previously kept to herself. She started exploring hobbies she had once ignored, such as drawing, reading, and simple crafts. Each activity, while ordinary on the surface, was monumental for her personal growth. The father understood that these small choices were reflections of her growing confidence, her ability to trust herself, and her newfound willingness to engage with the world. The waitress continued to play a critical role, not only as a mentor, but as a consistent source of encouragement and empathy. She shared stories of her own experiences with fear and hesitation, subtly showing the girl that challenges were part of life and could be overcome with patience and courage. She emphasized the importance of persistence, gently guiding the girl through setbacks and helping her understand that mistakes were opportunities for learning rather than reasons for fear. This approach resonated deeply with the young girl, who began to internalize these lessons and apply them in her daily life. One day, they planned a visit to a nearby nature reserve. The idea was simple: a quiet walk among trees, listening to birds, observing wildlife, and enjoying the peaceful environment. For the girl, it was both exciting and daunting: new sights, new sounds, and the possibility of unexpected encounters with animals or other visitors. However, the gentle guidance of the waitress, combined with her father's supportive presence, helped her approach the experience with curiosity rather than fear. She began to notice the subtle details: the rustle of leaves, the patterns of sunlight through branches, and the songs of birds overhead. Each observation brought a sense of wonder and calm, reinforcing her growing confidence. During these walks, the girl began to ask questions, express opinions, and share her thoughts about the environment. The waitress responded patiently, encouraging deeper exploration and reflection. This active engagement nurtured critical thinking, curiosity, and self-expression, all essential components of personal development. The father noticed the transformation, realizing that the girl was not only gaining confidence, but also developing a sense of agency over her experiences. She was learning to navigate the world thoughtfully, make choices, embrace opportunities without fear. The young girl also started forming connections with other children in these new environments. At first, she observed from a distance, shy and cautious. But as her confidence grew, she began to participate in small conversations, share games, and engage in collaborative activities. These interactions, though modest, marked a significant step in her social development. She was learning the dynamics of friendship, cooperation, and empathy, all while feeling safe and supported by the consistent presence of her father and the waitress. The father reflected on the profound impact these experiences had on his daughter. He realized that the world outside their private home, once intimidating and frightening, was gradually becoming a place of possibility, discovery, and joy. The careful balance of challenge and safety had allowed her to grow at her own pace, building resilience and self-confidence that would serve her for years to come. The waitress's influence, grounded in genuine empathy and understanding, had been instrumental in this transformation. She had provided the tools, support, encouragement necessary for the girl to explore her potential without fear or pressure. Over time, the girl began to embrace more complex challenges. She volunteered for small responsibilities at community events, participated in group activities at school, and even started performing short skits or songs in front of supportive audiences. Each success reinforced her sense of competence and self-worth. Her father observed these achievements with pride, understanding that they represented not only her growing abilities, but also her resilience and courage. In facing previously intimidating situations, the trio continued their structured yet flexible approach, carefully selecting experiences that encouraged growth while respecting the girl's comfort. They maintained open communication, allowing her to express preferences, concerns, and ideas. This collaborative approach fostered trust, mutual respect, and a sense of security, all of which were crucial for her continued development. The girl's confidence became increasingly apparent, not only in her actions but in her demeanor, expressions, and willingness to engage with the world. At home, the atmosphere shifted significantly. The girl's newfound courage allowed her to explore hobbies, express opinions, and take initiative in daily activities. Her father, inspired by the process, adapted his own approach to parenting, prioritizing empathy, patience, and encouragement over control and expectation. The household transformed into a supportive environment where growth, curiosity, and self-expression were celebrated rather than pressured. Through these experiences, the young girl learned important life lessons that fear could be managed, challenges could be faced with patience, and progress came through consistent effort rather than sudden leaps. She discovered the joy of exploration, the satisfaction of accomplishment, and the importance of supportive relationships. The waitress's mentorship, combined with her father's steady support, created a foundation of confidence and resilience that would empower her for the rest of her life. The girl's journey, though ongoing, had reached a point where she could navigate the world with increasing independence and assurance. Her laughter became more frequent, her curiosity more pronounced, and her interactions with others more natural. The careful guidance, gentle encouragement, and patient support provided by the waitress and her father had allowed her to blossom, transforming fear into courage and hesitation into engagement. As the months progressed, the young girl's growth continued to inspire those around her. Friends, family, and even strangers noticed the change in her demeanor. The confidence in her voice and the ease with which she navigated new experiences. Yet for her father and the waitress, the transformation was less about external recognition and more about the quiet, persistent progress that occurred day by day. Step by step, the journey had proven that true change required patience, empathy, and understanding. The young girl's story became a testament to the power of consistent support, thoughtful guidance, and genuine human connection. Through careful planning, encouragement, and the nurturing presence of her father and the waitress, she had discovered courage, resilience, and the joy of engaging with the world on her own terms. Her father realized that these lessons extended beyond his daughter's growth. They were lessons about life itself. That true courage was built gradually, that kindness and understanding could create profound change, and that even the smallest gestures could have a lasting impact. The young girl, through her journey, had begun to embody these lessons, embracing a life of possibility, curiosity, and confidence that promised a future filled with hope and joy. By the end of this period, the young girl was no longer the timid child who had once hidden from the world. She had become a brave, curious, and resilient individual, capable of facing new experiences with courage and grace. Her father and the waitress continued to guide her gently, knowing that growth was ongoing, but the progress achieved thus far was remarkable. The foundation had been laid for a lifetime of confidence, self-expression, and meaningful connections, all nurtured by patience, empathy, and unwavering support. The young girl's transformation had reached a point where her courage and confidence were becoming more visible every day. Her father, who had watched her grow from a timid, hesitant child into someone capable of facing the world with a quiet bravery, felt a deep sense of pride. The waitress, whose consistent guidance and gentle encouragement had played a critical role in this transformation, continued to be a positive presence in the girl's life, offering support while allowing her to explore her independence. They both understood that while her growth was significant, the final stages of her journey required experiences that would test her newfound confidence in meaningful ways. One evening, her father decided to organize a small celebration for the girl's progress, a gathering that included close friends and family. It was meant to be joyful, but also an opportunity for the girl to navigate social interactions in a slightly larger setting than she was accustomed to. The girl was initially nervous about attending, worried about being the center of attention, and unsure how she would handle so many people watching her. Her father and the waitress reassured her that she could participate however she felt comfortable, that there was no pressure to perform or speak if she did not wish to. This sense of control gave her the courage to agree. As the gathering began, the girl observed from a safe spot near her father, taking in the smiles, laughter, and lively conversations around her. She noticed the warmth of her friends and family, the genuine interest they showed in her, and the sense of community that surrounded her. Slowly, she felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. The waitress stayed close by, offering subtle cues of encouragement and reminders that she was capable of engaging with others. These small gestures helped the girl gain confidence without feeling overwhelmed. The father watched as his daughter began to interact with the guests, starting with small gestures like greeting people with a shy smile or responding to simple questions. Each interaction was a small victory, reinforcing her sense of self-worth and capability. Encouraged by her progress, she gradually moved to more active participation, laughing at jokes, sharing her own stories, and even initiating brief conversations. It was remarkable to see how far she had come from the child who had once hidden in fear, hesitant even to dance at a restaurant. At one point, the waitress suggested a game that required teamwork and cooperation. Something light-hearted that would allow the girl to engage without feeling exposed. The game involved a simple relay activity where children and adults formed pairs to complete small tasks. Hesitant at first, the girl agreed to participate, encouraged by the presence of her father and the supportive atmosphere. She found herself laughing and enjoying the challenge, realizing that collaboration with others could be fun rather than intimidating. This experience reinforced her confidence, showing her that she could navigate new situations successfully. Later, the father asked the girl if she would like to try a small dance, something just for fun and not as a performance for others. She hesitated, remembering her earlier fear of dancing in public. But the gentle encouragement from her father and the waitress helped her take a deep breath and step onto the floor. She began moving to the music tentatively, then gradually with more freedom and joy. The transformation was evident. The same girl who had once hidden from the idea of dancing was now moving with a sense of delight and self-assurance. Her laughter filled the room, drawing smiles and applause from the guests. But the girl's focus was on the sheer joy of the moment, rather than the reactions of others. The father felt a profound sense of relief and pride. He realized that his daughter's journey had been about much more than overcoming specific fears. It had been about discovering her own resilience, learning to trust herself, and finding joy in life without being limited by anxiety. The waitress, too, felt immense satisfaction, knowing that her patient guidance and consistent support had contributed to this transformation. She had nurtured the girl's confidence through small, meaningful experiences, and now those lessons were shining in real-world situations. The evening continued with more activities designed to be enjoyable and engaging. The girl participated in storytelling, shared her drawings and small crafts, and even offered to help organize a few games for the younger children present. Each act of involvement reinforced her growing independence and self-confidence. She was no longer the timid child who relied entirely on others for comfort. She had learned to navigate new experiences, make choices, and engage meaningfully with people around her. After the celebration, the father and the waitress decided to take the girl on a small weekend trip to a nearby city. The purpose was to offer her a broader exposure to new environments, challenges, and experiences, further solidifying the progress she had made. The trip was carefully planned to include opportunities for exploration, learning, and social interaction. While ensuring safety and a sense of control for the girl, they visited museums, parks, small cafes, and local markets, allowing her to engage with new sights, sounds, and people in a comfortable and supportive way. During the trip, the girl showed remarkable adaptability and curiosity. She asked questions about exhibits in the museums, interacted politely with shopkeepers and local residents, and even navigated small challenges such as finding her way through crowded streets. With gentle guidance from her father and the waitress, each experience reinforced her sense of competence, showing her that she could face unfamiliar situations with confidence and creativity. The father observed with quiet pride, realizing that his daughter was no longer limited by fear, but driven by curiosity and the desire to learn. On one afternoon of the trip, they visited a small local theater hosting a children's performance. The father suggested that the girl could participate in a brief interactive segment of the show, where children were invited on stage to join in a dance or sing along. The girl paused, feeling a mix of excitement and hesitation. She remembered her past fears, but the reassurance from her father and the waitress gave her the courage to step forward. As she moved onto the stage, she felt a surge of empowerment. She danced, sang, and laughed freely, fully immersed in the experience. The audience's applause was secondary to the joy she felt in embracing the moment. Without fear, this experience became a turning point in the girl's journey. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. She understood that her voice, her movements, and her choices mattered, that she could express herself authentically without being constrained by worry or hesitation. Her father, witnessing this moment, felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that years of patient support, encouragement, and guidance had culminated in this remarkable display of self-confidence. Throughout the trip, the waitress continued to provide subtle guidance, encouraging the girl to reflect on her experiences and recognize her own growth. She asked questions about what the girl enjoyed most, what made her feel proud, and what challenges she had faced. These reflections helped the girl internalize her progress, reinforcing the lessons she had learned and solidifying her self-belief. The father joined in these conversations, providing gentle affirmation and praise, ensuring that the girl's achievements were recognized and celebrated. Back home, the girl's confidence continued to flourish. She became more proactive in her daily activities, engaging with schoolwork, hobbies, and friends with a sense of curiosity and enthusiasm. She took on small leadership roles in group projects, participated in extracurricular activities, and expressed her opinions confidently. The foundation laid by her father and the waitress allowed her to navigate these experiences with assurance, demonstrating resilience, creativity, and social competence. One of the most notable changes was in the girl's ability to connect with others emotionally. She became more empathetic, noticing the feelings and needs of her friends, family, and even strangers. She offered support, shared encouragement, and responded to others' emotions with genuine care. This emotional growth, coupled with her newfound confidence, allowed her to form meaningful, lasting relationships and navigate social situations with ease. Her father reflected on the journey, recognizing that the process had been gradual, requiring patience, empathy, and consistency. The girl's growth was a testament to the power of thoughtful guidance and unconditional support. He understood that the waitress's role had been invaluable, her kindness, patience, and ability to challenge. The girl gently had created a safe space for exploration and self-discovery. Together, they had nurtured courage, resilience, and joy, enabling the girl to thrive in time. The girl's story became an inspiration to those around her. Friends, family, and community members noticed her transformation, remarking on her confidence, independence, and joy. Yet the real triumph lay in the girl herself. She had learned to navigate life with courage, curiosity, and self-assurance. She had embraced challenges, discovered her strengths, and developed the resilience to face setbacks with grace. The father and the waitress continued to support her, understanding that growth is ongoing, and that each new experience would offer opportunities for learning and development. But the foundation they had built together ensured that the girl would approach life with confidence, empathy, and joy. She had become a young individual capable of embracing the world on her own terms, powered by the lessons learned and the experiences shared with those who cared for her. Ultimately, the young girl's journey demonstrated that fear could be transformed into courage, hesitation into action, and uncertainty into confidence. Through patient guidance, consistent support, and opportunities for exploration, she had discovered her own strength and potential. The father's unwavering love and the waitress's mentorship had provided the tools, encouragement, and safe space needed for this transformation. The girl had emerged not only stronger and braver, but also more joyful, curious, and ready to embrace the world with open arms and a courageous heart. The story concluded with a sense of fulfillment and hope. The young girl, once timid and fearful, had grown into a confident, resilient, and joyful individual. Her journey had been a testament to the power of patience, empathy, and consistent support. The father and the waitress, having guided her through challenges and celebrated her triumphs, witnessed the remarkable transformation of a child who had learned to embrace life fully and courageously. It was a story of growth, love, and the extraordinary potential that lies within every individual when nurtured with care, understanding, and encouragement.